Hello and welcome to another Weekly Difference, where today I'm going to be reviewing Scream 2 from 1997, directed by Wes Craven, written by Kevin Williamson, and starring Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, and David Arquette. Now let me mention, this is edition 2 in the series Reviews in the category Movies, and if you don't understand how all that stuff works on my channel, Weekly Difference, then you can go to my absolute first video where I explained everything, which was Cedar Point Review, if you want to hear how everything works and stuff. Previous, if you want to click on the screen and watch my prior review to this, which was also part of the series Reviews in the category Movies, was a review on Scream, the original Scream from 1996. That is the previous video in this series, so if you want to watch that, you could just click on the screen where the annotation is sort of surrounding, and it'll take you there before you watch this one. And lastly, before I get into the actual contents of my review, I want to explain that there are many spoilers in this episode, so if you have not seen the movie, first of all, I highly recommend seeing it and the whole trilogy before you watch my reviews. And just watch out, because there are going to be a lot of spoilers in this one, so this is my one and only spoiler alert, and I really hope I don't ruin anything for you. But honestly, if you really haven't watched the movie, I don't know why you'd be watching this right now, so I probably shouldn't even mention that, but that's my spoiler alert for you. And I'm going to read the summary real quick. Scream 2. 2 years after the first series of murders, a new psychopath dons the Ghostface costume, and a new string of killings begins. So that's the summary of Scream 2 from 1997. Now I'm going to jump into the characters category on all the content that I'm going to be doing in this episode. So Phil is the first character that I'm going to be reviewing, sorta, played by Omar Epps. He's actually from House, one of my favorite shows, hospital show. Omar Epps plays Phil. He's one of the two characters in this movie that actually get killed in the beginning. You know how Scream is sort of famous for their beginning kills, how there's always some. So Phil is one of those characters, and he's the boyfriend of Maureen, which is actually the next character I'm going to discuss. But while I'm on Phil right now, he doesn't really have a humongous part, but I reviewed Casey in the last episode, which was the other beginning kill of the first one, so I'm going to discuss the beginning characters of this one. So Phil, he goes to the premiere of Stab, which has a ton to do with the context of this movie and Scream 3. And something happens, which I'm going to discuss in the next category, which is murders. But there's really not much to say about the character himself, since you really don't have much time to meet him or anything like that. Next is Maureen. She's the other beginning character, who is Phil's girlfriend, and a little bit sassy and a little bit racist, always talking about how, this isn't black or whatnot, but again, there's nothing much really to say about those two beginning characters other than to mention them because of their beginning performances. But yeah, so I just felt I had to pay my respects. Not pay my respects. Like, that sounds like they died. Well, they did in the movie, but anyway, I just thought I had to mention them. So the next character is Debbie Salt, very interesting character, who will surprise you. That's for later. But Debbie Salt, really eager, sorta, or always following Gail around. Gail gets quite annoyed. But there's nothing really much to say about Debbie Salt, because she's a very minor character also, until the end. And then the next character is Cotton Weary, who was actually accused of murdering Maureen Prescott, who is Sydney's mother, in the first one, and he gets out of jail in the second one, and he actually has to do a lot with the plot. He shows up multiple times. He's sort of this guy that's very mysterious. Throughout the plot, you think that, he's obviously not obviously not the killer, because he's been released, and he obviously seems very innocent. But I thought it would have been really interesting if they actually, in the end, did make him one of the killers. So that would have been pretty interesting by the writers, Kevin Williamson, or the director, Wes Craven, to mention or even put in the script and make it into the movie. That would have been a really cool thing. But yeah, Cotton, sometimes I even question the ability to say that he's innocent, because he sort of has this little edge to him that he might be psychotic. So that's sort of how he is. Next is Mickey. He's sort of a minor character. I was even debating on mentioning him, but he's one of the friends of Sydney. He's sort of in that group with her, Hallie, Derek, and Derek, who is her boyfriend, and Hallie's her best friend. So and Randy, of course, Randy, which I'm going to be mentioning next, actually. But Mickey's sort of just a minor character and doesn't really have a humongous role until the end, which I'll mention later. Yeah, there's not really much to say about him because he's sort of a minor character. Next is Randy, obviously one of the original characters from Scream. Randy obviously really likes Sydney, but not much luck. But yeah, he's sort of just a reflection on the first one, I think, in this movie. I thought it had been really, really creative by the producers and the writers and the directors to actually the writer, pretty much, because he makes the whole story up. I thought it would have been really creative to make Randy actually live onto the third one. That would have been really cool, because then he would have been on the original, like with the originals, with Sydney, Gallon, Dewey. Those are sort of the originals that survived through the trilogy. I thought it would have been really creative to see him evolve throughout the trilogy, but he did die in this one, which I'll discuss later on the murders list. Next is Hallie. She's best friend of Sydney. There's not really much to say about the characters, just sort of mentioning them to show you who is sort of the main characters that had to do with the film and their roles, sort of. She was the best friend of Sydney. Next is Dewey. He's obviously one of the original characters. He's a little more, he's a lot different in this one, he has that lamp and everything's just a little bit different about him, but, it's obviously great to see another original character in this one, following the first one, and he actually does last throughout the whole trilogy, so, along with Gail and Sydney, those are kind of the three amigos who sort of kick it out through the whole trilogy. But Dewey, he's one of the main characters in this one. And then the third last one that I'm going to mention is Derek. She's Sydney's boyfriend, and you think that Sydney would be a little more precautious. It's been like a year or so after, all her friends were killed. Her boyfriend ended up being a killer, so you think that she'd be a little more precautious as to say that she got a boyfriend right away at college, but that's who Derek is. He's the boyfriend of Sydney. So, you kind of think he's the killer, too. It really makes it seem like he is throughout the whole plot, Him and Cotton, I thought, would have been a really cool duo to be the killer. And maybe even they made a third, who I'm going to discuss later, which I thought was a really good choice to kill, of a murderer, actually. But, so yeah, this is Derek, boyfriend of Sydney, and then the second last one is Gail, obviously the reporter, Dewey's, lover or whatever, obviously has a deep conflict with Sydney, and she's one of the main, Gail is one of the main, characters throughout this whole trilogy, too. Again, it's her, Dewey, and Sydney. And then finally, obviously, the main character is Sydney, such a strong, antagonist in this trilogy and in this movie. I really do like her character in this movie and all the movies for that matter. I really like the concept of the character. I think the whole movie trilogy would have been a lot worse without this kind of character. It would have been just another murdering movie, but I think she kind of evolves the whole thing into what it is, along with Gail and Dewey, a little less though. Alright, so that's it for my characters. Now I'm going to move on to the murders. There are quite a few in this one. They really stepped it up. They also stepped up characters. As you could see, there's a lot more characters that I thought I had to mention, and there are a lot more murder scenes too, so... The first one is Phil's death. He's obviously one of the main, the beginning characters. He was one of the beginning characters. It's really, really gross. This scene always, grosses me out, because he goes to the bathroom stall, goes to the bathroom, then he hears, this really weird, sort of childish voice in the stall next to him. He puts his cheek up to the wall to hear a little bit more closer, and right when he does that, ghost face, who will not be revealed yet. You probably know, obviously, because you've seen it, but I'm trying to kind of... keeping things a little, suspenseful, always mysterious. No, but Phil puts his cheek up, or his ear, to hear better, and Ghostface stabs the knife through his cheek, which I think is really gross, because there's a ton of bones and stuff in your cheek, so it's just an odd place to get stabbed. But The next death is Maureen's. She's obviously the other beginning kill. This one's a lot more creative, though. She's in the theater. She's sitting watching the movie. Then she realizes there's blood on her hands. Who she thinks the guy next to her is Phil, who she thinks is her boyfriend, but in reality it's not. It's one of the killers. Hint, hint. That wasn't really a hint, but just mentioning it. Yeah. So Ghostface is next to her. She thinks it's actually her boyfriend, but it's one of the killers, and she gets stabbed like 7 times. It's really gross. And then she like climbs on. This part really weirds me out, sorta. Like she goes up onto like where the film is being shot, the giant screen in front of it, and she kind of reminds me of a gorilla. She's like, you know, and then she sort of like just collapses. And I'm guessing if I was there, I'd probably think it was just some sort of acting, since everyone is pretty much like fake stabbing each other, which I've never actually seen in a movie theater, so I don't know where they got that idea. Maybe it was different in the 90s, but I thought it was a little bit odd how she went up on there, but it was very cool. I thought the 2 murders were pretty cool. Now getting into more of the main movie's deaths. First is Cece. I was actually debating to put her on the characters list, but in reality, it's kind of a weird way to word it. I decided not to. So Cece's death is really cool. I think it's sort of the same as in Scream. It's sort of like the principal's death, sort of, but this one's a lot cooler. It's a lot longer. You know, Ghostface calls her. She's watching a movie. It's sort of creepy because she thinks it's her boyfriend. And then I really, really, really like the part where he's like, "Don't forget to set the alarm," or whatever. Oh wait, no. Her friend like answers the phone, and then like he's like, "It's Ted," like whispering, like it's Ted, like her old boyfriend, and he sneaks in like really creepily, but it's not focused on him, so I think it's really cool. I really liked that scene, but the whole murder scene is awesome. I mean, it's not really that gory. He only stabs her like twice and throws her over the balcony, so I think it's just sort of to keep it a little bit fresh in the middle, but I thought it was a really cool kill at that. Next is Randy's death. I was really sad to see him go. I thought this death was a little less than I expected. I mean, at least give him a big scene to die in. I mean, he was in the whole original, and he actually lasted to the second. He was only one of 4 to do it, so 25% of the characters from the first one. So I thought it was a little bit less than I expected for his death. If they were going to kill him, I actually didn't want him to be killed, but they did kill him, so that's that. And next is this. I just sort of want to mention real quick. This is Sid's guard's death. And I did mention Kenny's, who's the cameraman in the first one's death, so I'm just going to mention this real quick. The guards are driving Sid to protection, and Hallie's in the car too. And then Ghostface sort of like stabs the driver while they're at a red light, which I think is kind of a little absurd, because I don't know that Ghostface would know where they're going. And they drive for like 10 minutes, and then they're at a stoplight, and Ghostface appears, and he's just like, hello, you know. It's kind of a little bit weird that he would show up there, but yeah, he does, I guess. And then he stabs the one guard, and then the other one like tries to like, but then the other one gets out of the car, and he's like on the windshield. It's really weird, but yeah, I just wanted to mention that real quick, the Sid's guard's deaths. And the next is Hallie's death. I actually was really sad to see her go. I thought, I mean, they didn't really like keep any characters for the third one. I mean, the third one is just Gail, Dewey, and Sid, and I thought they could have really carried some characters over, especially Hallie, who I thought's death was a little bit less too. I mean, a lot of these ending deaths weren't much. Sid goes back to the car, which is a really suspenseful moment, and she's about to lift the mask of who is in the car, but then like, you know, he's not there anymore, and he's actually at the other end of the street, and Hallie's there like, what's going on? And then Ghostface stabs her. But I thought it would have been a lot cooler if she died a little creatively. Like, they could have made a lot when I think over these movies, they could do a lot of potentially creative things, but I mean, they don't, so. Next is Derek's death. I thought this was also a little bit less. When you find out that Mickey's actually one of the killers. Ta-da. It's finally presented, but I'm going to mention that after I do the murders scenes, but Derek's shot. Her boyfriend is, or Sydney's boyfriend is shot, and then after that goes the scenes where, like, the fighting scene between Mickey and Sid, which I think is really cool. And I love when Sid's like, I killed him, or I fucking killed him. I really like that scene. And then she whips him with it, and she's like, you piece of shit. It's awesome. But, yeah, that's Derek's death. It's just really a shot. I didn't really know how to review that much. And then there's Mickey's death. I believe he's killed by... It's kind of confusing because he's shot like 8 times. He was killed by... He was originally shot by Debbie Salt, who was actually the other killer, but I'll reveal who she actually is later if you haven't seen it, just to make it cooler. Yeah, Debbie Salt, who is the other killer. Ta-da! Debbie Salt, who is the other killer, shoots him, and then he goes down for like a really long time, but then he actually gets up when they always come back, and then it's not really Debbie Salt who comes back after she's shot a couple times, but it's Mickey, and I believe it's both Sydney and Gail shoot him, so that's sort of his long death scene. He's both shot by Debbie and Sid and Gail. So that's Mickey's death, and finally is Debbie Salt's death. She's the other killer, and it's sort of just a long played out thing.
Maybe you should too.
She's shot by Cotton Weary, because Cotton Weary actually comes in, and you think he's actually going to kill Sydney because Debbie's sort of playing with his head, and she's like, she sent you to prison, you know, she won't even go on Diane Sawyer with you and whatnot. So then once Sid's like, consider it done for Diane Sawyer, who I don't even know what that is. I think it's like an interview show. Then Cotton actually shoots Debbie Salt, and that's how she dies. So now I'm going to move on to the killers. First I'm going to mention the first one that I didn't like. It's the same as Scream. There's one that I didn't like, one that I did like, and if you guessed Mickey for the one that I didn't like this time, you were right. Because I thought it was he was a really, really minor character. There wasn't really anything going on with him, and I was kind of confused why they would pick him as a killer. Like, his motto was stupid. Kind of like Stu, that I sort of related him to. He wasn't really a major character. He had nothing to do with the plot. Like, I didn't get why he was the killer. She's like, Mickey, but I mean, she hardly even knew it. Like, they were sort of friends, but I don't know. I thought it was a really bad choice of killings for that. But then the second one I thought was awesome, creative for them. It was a great, great moment in Scream history, I guess, if that's a thing. Debbie Salt, a.k.a. Mrs. Loomis. Yeah, if you didn't know that. That was the one who I thought was really good. I was super surprised when I heard that she's actually Mrs. Loomis. That was a really, really cool twist, and that was like why I boosted my rate up, which I'll discuss in a little bit. A lot. I mean, it really boosted the movie for me. The whole twist was just amazing. I thought it was really creative by Kevin Williamson to do. But I really like this. There's like a lot of parts where I like where Sydney's like, well, first, how I discussed later was like, I fucking killed him or whatever. And then I like this where she's like, you don't know how it is to be a mother, to teach him, to guide him. And then Sydney's like, to abandon him. And then she's like, isn't Mickey supposed to be dead? And then the whole conflict scene between her and Debbie Salt, a.k.a. Mrs. Loomis. That's a really cool scene, but I thought it was a really good choice to make her, and I thought it was they were sort of foreshadowing it. I mean, why would they just add a random reporter sort of just stalking Gail and being a part of the storyline? But I thought without being a killer, I never even guessed it. Like, at first I was like, why would you make her a killer? Like, she had nothing to do with the plot, but once Gail's like Mrs. Loomis, or no, Sydney's like Mrs. Loomis, I thought that really improved everything for me, and I thought it was a really cool decision. So Mickey I thought wasn't so good, but I definitely liked the decision of making Mrs. Loomis Debbie Salt and making her the killer. of it all. And a great motive, obviously. Billy being her son and her killing, Sydney killing Billy. Great motive. Really improved everything for me. So now I'm going to move on to the overall rates of the whole movie. First, obviously, as I do every single time, which is, this is actually my second, so I don't know why I said that. Just my second time doing this. I'm going to mention the rate of IMDb.com, which is an internet movie database. It's basically the most popular movie database where you can get all your information about pretty much every movie that's been released. But for this one, I thought they gave it a little bit of a low rate. From 101,625 users, they rated it was a solid 6.0. And I do it in to the nearest tenth, and so do they. So you can see it's definitely about the same number system, but yeah, they give it a 6 out of 10, which I thought was a really, really low number, because I thought this was a really good sequel. I mean, most sequels suck. I mean, especially, let's look at A Nightmare on Elm Street, for instance. Those movies were great, but I mean, the second one was kind of horrible. It was a horrible sequel, so I gotta give them props for making a really good sequel on this one. But yeah, I was really surprised they gave it a solid 6. I definitely boosted it up to an 8.4. I thought, it's not quite a 9. It's not very great, which I classify 9 as. This is sort of my motto, like, 5 or below is just horrible, or 4 or below is just horrible. 5 is pretty much okay. 6 is good. 7 is very good. 8 is great, and 9 is sort of very, very great, and then 10 is obviously like the best movie ever, which I probably will never rate any movie that I do. But I decided that 8.4 is great because it's very, very great, but it's sort of like in the middle of it. And I rated Scream a 9, and I really liked it. But Scream 2 I thought was a little bit lower, obviously because it's a sequel. You can't really ever outdo the original, but as they say in the movie a couple times. And again, one thing I wanted to mention is how they always it's sort of like there's so many movies mentioned in the Scream movies. It's really cool how they do that. So yeah, I think that is it for my review. Again, 8.4 for the final rate of the movie from 1997, Scream 2. It's 120 minutes long, by the way. Random statistic as I'm looking at the IMDb page. I don't know why I said that. Yeah, but it came out in 1997 on December 12th. That'd probably be... I never saw it in theaters. I would really like to, though. That would have been really cool. But other things I wanted to mention was the college concept was really cool. I thought after, she's in high school, you can't just skip right to her adulthood. I thought it was a really good concept at college, and there's a lot of opportunities which they did take advantage of many times. The parties, the different characters, the different personalities, meeting different people who could potentially be psychotic, which happened with her in Mickey's case, but not Debbie Salt. She sort of got there on her own. But yeah, I thought it was a really good movie, and I'm glad they made a sequel, and I'm glad they made a third one. But I mean, the fourth one wasn't great. I'll get to it later in my later reviews. So yeah, that's that. So yeah, 8.4. And this is, let me mention, it's the second movie of 4. There's Scream 1, 2, 3, and 4, and this is the second one of the 4-part trilogy. So that's one thing I wanted to mention. If you want to check out the other movies, I highly recommend it. Probably the greatest horror trilogy of them all, other than A Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, Friday the 13th, the classics. I think it's one of the classic horror series, just in my opinion at least. But so yeah, that's that. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, don't forget to comment, and don't forget to subscribe. Please subscribe. I only have 3 subscribers. I'm a new YouTube page. And also like this video if you liked it. Give it a thumbs up for me. Show the love, and comment. Give me some feedback. What's your opinion of the movie? What was your rate? And what do you think of these videos so far? So, and finally, the next video in this category, movies, will be another review. It'll be part 3 to my reviews, number 3. It'll be Scream 3, a review. And I'll keep doing that till I reach the 4th one. And just one thing I wanted to mention, in the 4th review for Scream 4, I will be giving an overall rate of the whole trilogy itself, so you don't want to miss that review. It'll be coming soon, probably around June like 15th around, or probably earlier, probably like June 10th, if I can get these edited and up in time. So yeah, that's my review on Scream 2. Hope you liked it. Again, please rate, comment, subscribe. Either like it or dislike it. Just give me your opinion. That'd be great. And I'll see you guys next time when I do Scream 3. Thanks for watching.
Hey, Gail, you all right?
Joe.
I'm back. You know, I was thinking maybe we could get the scoop like in the old days. You're Gail Weathers at Windsor College.
Got a live one here! Move it! There's room in that one over there?
Yeah.
Dewey!
Go!
I can't believe you're alive. Are you okay? You hang in there.
Knife went into some old scar tissue. Saved his life.
I'm coming with you.
Sydney, can you tell us how it feels to be a hero?
Talk to Cotton. He's the man you want to interview. He's the hero.
Cut!
Can you tell me what happened? What happened inside there? Details, tell us what happened.
Look, guys, no one wants to give you this story more than I do. Unfortunately, there was a time and a place, and indeed a price for everything, so feel free to call me.
Come on, Cotton, tell us something.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. It'll make a hell of a movie. Thank you.
Life's river shall rise, she said.